question was about a theory about the stress from the Mississippi River alluvium causing the earthquakes. I haven't heard that as a possibility. Certainly, the rocks everywhere have an overlying package of rocks above them, so the stress everywhere is going to be similar. In fact, the alluvium is actually going to be probably somewhat lower in density than the typical rocks you might have elsewhere on there. So probably that wouldn't be a likely reason for those. But there's been other things suggested for the earthquakes in addition to stress within the earth, things like glacial rebound, the fact that when glaciers melted up north of us here, that actually caused this part of the Earth's crust to slowly rebound, and part of that's still occurring up in the northern part of the United States, and that process does cause earthquakes in Ohio and Pennsylvania and places like that. Just rebound from melting of the ice, and so those earthquakes still kind of occur. They're relatively small, magnitude 3s and so on, typically for those kind of earthquakes. But that's been proposed as a potential reason for some of the earthquakes in New Madrid seismic zone as well.
And I'd heard just to go on that. I'd heard that was a possibility, that there may be the weight of the glacial outwash and stuff. But it definitely more so the glacier, the weight of the glaciers and the change in the isostatic rebound is more what is being suggested than the glacial outwash. Now that said, as Jeff said, it has been linked to earthquakes in Ohio because you remove that weight. Well, this is what I was saying early on about the weight of a reservoir. If you fill up an impoundment and the weight of the water, you're changing that stress from being like this to more like this. If you have a fault that may be oriented this direction and it's stressed like this, it's not going to move. But you change the stress, then it's more favorable. It can move and cause an earthquake. That's a case of triggered or induced seismicity. When you build a reservoir, you fill it up, you change the stress on the rock or on the fault that's there, boom, you have an earthquake. And what you're doing is when you're injecting into the subsurface, there's the strains there, and it's there and it's locked by friction. Well, if you change that pressure a little bit, the hydrostatic pressure, you raise it enough to overcome the friction that's holding it in place, it allows it to move. That's another form of triggering an earthquake. So there are cases where earthquakes can be triggered.
Yeah, I understand your question better now. There was certainly a lot of glacial outwash dumped very rapidly at once, and that certainly could change the stresses in that area.
Any other questions?